Testing 1, 2, 3. Warning, the following video may contain adult language and themes. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. If you have a problem with this, stop playing this video now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You had your chance to back out. No turning back now. Hi, this is my review of the horror suspense action movie called Asylum Blackout. Or I think it was released in 2011. It also goes under the name The Incident. Yeah, it's just called Asylum Blackout. And it's also called The Incident was its original title. And it was released in 2011. It was directed by Alexandria Cortez. Don't recognize that name at all. And I just have to say, this is a pretty good movie. I actually kind of like this movie. As far as horror movies go, this was pretty good. Pleasantly surprised by this. I didn't think I would like this very much, but this is I would say a semi-hidden gem. It's not a great movie, but like I said, quality is all relative, and there's a lot of bad horror movies out there, and this one is definitely not bad. This one's a little bit above average. I would actually say this is good, not great. Basically, the plot premise is that there are these guys that work in a kitchen in a asylum. I believe it's an asylum. I don't think it's a prison. I think it's a nut house. And basically the power goes out, and they're, for whatever reason, trapped in this asylum, and they can't get out, and the crazy people go nuts and start killing everybody. And that's basically the plot. And so the villains are the inmates. Now this movie is really not really good, but I thought it was pretty good. It's very gory. The first part of the movie isn't very gory. It builds up a very good atmosphere, and by the end, it's pretty damn gory. I'm going to use the Saw movies again as a benchmark, but if you've seen the Saw movies, you should be good. This should be nothing for you. Man, I need a new benchmark. But there's still a lot of gore, though. There's a scene where a guy's burned alive. A guy eats his own finger. It does get pretty gory by the end. Yeah, this is another thing about this movie is that during the beginning of the movie there were some audio problems. Like, it's kind of hard to hear what the people are saying. Like, they have to kind of speak really loud. Maybe they didn't have very accurate, audio equipment or boom mics. But at the beginning of the movie, it's fairly apparent. It's hard to hear these people. But by the end of the movie, you can hear them just fine. Either that, or you don't really need to hear them because it's mostly action by the end of the movie. So basically, let me introduce you to the main characters. There's this band of men in their 20s who are in this go-nowhere band, and a lot of them work at this prison. They're cooks at this prison. And they all have girlfriends and stuff, and they're struggling to make it. And they have to go in one day to prepare food, and all of a sudden the power goes out. Now, and there are hints that some of the inmates have spit out their sedatives or medication or whatever, and are planning a riot. Now, what I find kind of hard to believe is that these guys premeditated this. It's sort of implied that these inmates are working together to premeditate this before the power goes out. Now, how they knew the power would go out is beyond me, unless they knocked it out themselves, which is never really told whether they did or not. And so basically, these guys are in this nut house, and there are troublemakers and there are non-troublemakers, but yeah, basically it's a nut house, and these guys just start running around killing people, these nuts, and that's basically what the movie is. And at the end of the movie's pretty good, but the ending's kind of weird. Like, I'm gonna get into spoilers here. The ending's kind of weird. One guy we know survives, and it's sort of implied at the end that he goes nuts too. It sort of has an artsy ending, which just kind of comes out of nowhere, because up until that point it had been pretty straightforward. But it's this sort of artsy ending that he went insane now, and that he's in the nut house, or is he? It's just kind of a really left open ending. And one thing I kind of found odd about this movie is that when the power goes off, they're basically locked in this prison. They can't get out, which I found rather odd. You'd think, I don't know if you work in an asylum, if that's the protocol, if that's what would happen. Because it's explained that all the doors are electronic, and that since they're electronic, there's no power, you can't open them. But I would think that there would be doors that would require keys, mechanically controlled doors, just in case that would happen. I understand they'd want to keep the nuts in the house instead of letting the doors open, but you'd think, you think you'd use common sense in the engineers that did that there would actually be people in there that would want to get out, and you'd give them keys and have mechanical doors so you could actually still get out. And another thing is, I was like, why didn't these people just use their cell phone? Eventually these people do find a landline phone, and trivia question, if the power goes out, a landline phone, I guess, still has power, because it has its own power source. So yeah, they eventually call someone, and they realize that it's going to take about an hour for them to get help, which is just typical action movie inconveniences. And then one of the things I was wondering was why did these guys have cell phones? And I think at the beginning of the movie, I'll have to watch it again, but at the beginning they say this takes place in 1989 or in the 80s or something. Which, okay, that makes sense. Which again makes me think that maybe this was actually based off a true story. I'll have to research that as well, but that would make this even more creepier. But you can imagine this happening. This is one of those horror movies you can imagine actually happening to somebody. This could happen in the 80s. The power could go out, and because of faulty design, they're locked in this asylum with all these nuts that are bent on killing people and just running wild. So, yeah, and plus, there was at the beginning of the movie, the main character accidentally, while he's chopping up meat, he works in the kitchen, while he's chopping up meat, he accidentally cuts his finger. And at the end of the movie, when the main character is the only one who survives, or we think survives, and he gets caught by the main bad guy, the main nut guy, the nutty guy who's instigated this whole revolt, and then the crazy nutty guy starts biting off his own finger. Now, yeah, that's gross and that's weird, but it made me think, wait a minute, didn't the main character cut his finger in the beginning of the movie? Maybe that's just a coincidence, but it makes you kind of wonder. And the fact that he goes crazy in the end, and it's so ambiguous in the end that maybe you think that a lot of people are speculating that this is all in his head, and he's actually a nut in the nut house, because it's revealed at the end that the guy who he thought was behind it all, who bit off his finger, he was dead the whole time. Dun dun dun, the twist. But yeah, this is a good movie. Check it out if you haven't. Well, I guess I just spoiled it for you, but it's really good. I check it out. It's one of the better horror movies out there. Again, it's called Asylum Blackout, or it was originally called The Incident, and it was released in 2011. This is Horror Movie Radio, signing out.